Dad said it casually, like he was describing the weather. The guests chuckled. Teacups clinked. My entire existence was reduced to one small, harmless label. Mom smiled politely and added, "He works in a government school. Very simple life." Someone joked, "At least the salary comes on time, right?" Laughter filled the room. I smiled too, not because it was funny, because reacting would only make me look smaller in their eyes. They believed I was predictable, safe, unambitious, the kind of person who chooses comfort over risk and routine over growth. In their minds, safe meant small. I realized something while sitting there. People measure your worth by how loudly you present yourself. The louder you are, the more important you seem. The quieter you are, the easier you are to underestimate. I placed my teacup down gently and stood up. Dad looked at me. "What happened? Did you get offended?" I shook my head. "No, I just remembered something I have to finish." No anger, no explanation, no defense. I walked out. The noise of the house faded behind me as the front door closed. Outside, the air felt different, calmer, honest, unaffected by opinions. I didn't make any dramatic promises to myself. I didn't plan revenge. I didn't feel the need to prove anything. I simply understood one truth. People keep you small in their minds because they have never been forced to see you clearly. They thought they had defined me. I knew they had only described what they could see. Time moved quietly after that evening. Nothing dramatic changed on the surface. I still woke up early, still went to school, still stood in front of a blackboard with chalk on my fingers. To everyone watching, I was exactly what they thought I was. A simple teacher living a simple life. But my days had a new rhythm. After school, I didn't rush home. I stayed back with students who struggled. I recorded small lesson videos to help them revise. I shared them online without expecting anything in return. No announcements, no promotion, just consistent work. One video became 10. 10 became 50. Messages started coming from students I had never met. Other teachers began asking if they could use my material. A small education page invited me to contribute. Then another. I never mentioned it at home. Meanwhile, things around my parents were not as calm as before. Dad complained more often about work stress. Mom worried about expenses. There was always some tension in their voices during dinner. They still spoke about me the same way. Aske life to set hey. Teacher hey. Koi tension ni. I would nod and continue eating. They didn't know my evenings were filled with planning lessons for thousands of unseen students. They didn't know I had started attending free online workshops, learning how to improve my teaching methods, how to speak on camera, how to explain difficult topics simply. Slowly, an education platform noticed my work and asked if I would collaborate for a live session. I agreed quietly. The date was set. The topic was finalized. A poster was designed with my name and photo on it. I didn't tell anyone at home. That evening, as my parents sat in the living room watching TV after dinner, I was in my room setting up my phone, a small lamp, and a notebook beside me. They thought I was grading papers. I went live. Thousands of students joined within minutes. In the other room, the television volume suddenly went silent. A familiar voice filled the house. Mine. I stepped out of my room when the session ended. The house was unusually quiet. Dad and Mom were sitting upright on the sofa, eyes still fixed on the television screen, even though the program had moved on. My face had disappeared from the broadcast, but the silence it left behind was still there. Dad looked at me as if he was trying to recognize someone he had never properly seen before. "That was you?" he asked. I nodded. Yes. Mom spoke softly, almost carefully. They said thousands of students were watching. I didn't correct the number. I didn't add details. I didn't explain how long it had taken to reach that point. Dad cleared his throat. You never told us. There was nothing to tell, I replied calmly. I was just doing my work. For the first time, no one laughed at the word teacher. Dad turned off the TV. The room felt different now, not tense, not loud, just thoughtful. I didn't realize, he began, then stopped. I may have misunderstood what you do. I gave a small smile, not proud, not hurt, just steady. A lot of people misunderstand quiet work, I said. It doesn't look important from the outside. Mom's voice had a hint of regret. We're proud of you. I nodded politely, but I didn't step into that moment the way they expected. I didn't need their validation anymore. I had already built something that didn't depend on it. Dad gestured toward the sofa. Come, sit with us. I have some preparation for tomorrow, I said gently. Students will be waiting. There was no bitterness in my tone, no revenge hidden in my words, just clarity. As I walked back to my room, I realized something simple. They had not changed because I argued with them. They had changed because they finally saw. The next morning felt softer. Mom knocked on my door before I left for school. She held a cup of tea the way she used to when I had exams as a child. I didn't know you worked this hard, she said quietly. I smiled. You didn't have to. Dad didn't say much at breakfast, but when I picked up my bag, he stopped me. Son, what you do matters. I saw it yesterday. For years, I had wanted to hear something like that. I thought it would feel like victory. It didn't. It felt like peace. On my way to school, I realized nothing outside had really changed. The same road, the same gate, the same classroom. But inside, something was lighter. Not because they were proud, but because I no longer needed them to be. That evening, I went live again. Same setup, same calm voice, same purpose.